So now that we have our REST-based to-do list service all ready to go, I think it's time to start working on the UI and back into Angular. And that means getting the list of to-dos and displaying them on the main page. So let's get rid of Hello World and actually put something on there that makes some sense. So what I'm setting up here is that we're going to have a list of to-dos in the to-dos array, and then it's going to have the text items as we had before. And these are each going to go into a Bootstrap row inside of a Bootstrap call MD12. Now, I actually haven't mentioned yet that we're using Twitter Bootstrap, so let me talk a little bit about that. We're using Twitter Bootstrap version 3, and if you're not familiar with Twitter Bootstrap, it's a responsive UI framework that was originally written by the engineers at Twitter. The great value of Bootstrap is that it's responsive, which means that if you follow the CSS gridding guidelines, it will look good on a smartphone, a tablet, or a desktop without you having to do much custom work at all, or maybe none. In fact, the little app that in our little app, we're just going to use CSS Bootstrap classes, as is. So back to Angular, I'm just going to use the repeat directive and go over each of the to-dos and put out the to-do list item text for each one. So let's now go and actually make the call and go and get our to-dos. So I start off here by creating an empty array of to-dos, and then we make the get call to our API v1 to-do. And when that returns successful with the data, we then set the scope to-dos to that data. Nothing in there at the moment. Let's go and add something. Excellent. Now we actually have the AngularJS UI talking to our API in the back end. Let's try one more time just because this is really exciting. I got too excited for my own good there. So the next thing to do is create a text field where we can go and enter a new to-do item and then have it posted to the server. So one thing I really want to do here is create a new controller to wrap all of this. So let's go and do that. We're going to call that the to-do controller. Let's also set the new to-do. Make sure that works. It does. Keep it empty for the moment. And what we want to do is use the ng key up attribute to say whenever the keyboard lifts up, so we've got a new keystroke, we're going to want to go and inspect that keystroke. And we're going to want to look to see if somebody's hit return. So what they can do is just type in their to-do item and hit return, and it'll automatically get sent to us. So let's go and add that functionality. And what we're looking for is the key code. That's going to tell us which key was hit. In this case, we're going to want to look for key code 13, which is enter or return. And from there, we're going to want to go and post, because we're going to go and create a new to-do item for the given to-do text. So instead of get, we're going to want to do post. And post takes a block of data. So in this case, text, the new to-do. Awesome. And we remember that we get back from post the new list of updated to-dos. Bingo. You type in some text, you return, and it adds a new item. What would be even better is if it got rid of the existing item. Let's just copy that in there. And notice that every time I'm hitting refresh or save, it's still getting the data from the server because that's all kept in memory. So let's add another. and it's automatically getting rid of the existing to-do. This is really looking nice. This is actually pretty sweet so far. So what I'm going to do is end it here. We're going to go and in the next segment talk about how to do posting and deleting and updating. But at this point, you should have a pretty good idea of how to make some basic requests to the server using the $HTTP functionality. In particular, the most fundamental two types of requests, the GET request and the POST request. Next, we're going to add up the delete and update functionality of the application, as well as use some animation functionality in Angular to give it a really nice polished feel.